When we think about what someone leaves behind, their legacy, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it massive buildings? Or maybe empires that stretched across the map? Well, today, we're going to explore a totally different kind of legacy. One that isn't built with stone, but is forged right in the human heart. We're going to dive into the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad and the life of his closest companion, Abu Bakr, to really understand what a legacy of character looks like. Let's get started.
I mean, this is the classic way we measure greatness, isn't it? Things we can actually see and touch. The pyramids, the Colosseum, grand palaces that scream power and influence. They tell a story of what was built. But what if the greatest monuments are the ones you can't see? What if they're principles, virtues, a whole code of conduct that gets etched into the very soul of a people? This is the story of a different kind of construction project, the building of a person's character.
Okay, so our first lesson starts with a pretty simple but profound question: what makes a person truly valuable? The answer we find here completely redefines what we think of as status.
The first title we're looking at is al-Ateeq. Now, this doesn't mean the richest or the most powerful guy in the room. Nope, it means the most righteous, the one who is most conscious of God. It's a kind of status you earn on the inside, not from your circumstances on the outside.
And this title, it's directly tied to Scripture. The Quran itself talks about al-Ateeq, cementing this quality as, well, a kind of shield, a form of salvation. This elevates being righteous from just a nice personal virtue to a divinely recognized station. So the teaching here is absolutely revolutionary for its time. Your real rank in the world isn't about your family name, it's not about your bank account, it's about your taqwa, that inner awareness of God and your drive to do what's right. And look, this wasn't just some nice theory. Abu Bakr, who was a really successful merchant, he put this idea into practice. He used his money not for himself, but to buy the freedom of enslaved people who were being persecuted for their beliefs. His wealth became a tool for justice and mercy, a perfect, real-world example of what it means to be al-Ateeq.
Now let's move on to our next lesson. This one unfolds during one of the most intense, dramatic moments you can imagine. It's an incredible story about danger and a kind of trust that's almost hard to comprehend.
So, in the Quran, Abu Bakr gets another title, as-Sahib, which means the companion. And this title is forever linked to a single life-or-death event, the Hijrah, the migration from Mecca when he and the Prophet were literally fleeing for their lives.
Just try to imagine that. Two men, all alone in this huge, unforgiving desert. They are fugitives, there's a price on their heads, and they're being chased by expert trackers who want to end not just their lives, but their entire message. They find shelter in this tiny cave, and their pursuers get so close they can hear their voices echoing outside. They're so close that if one of them just happened to look down, they'd be discovered. The danger is right there, breathing down their necks.
And in that dark, cramped space, Abu Bakr is overcome with fear. But, and this is so important, the historical sources are clear. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was terrified for his friend, for his prophet. His loyalty was just absolute.
And the Prophet's response, which is recorded for all time, isn't some clever escape plan. It's a statement of profound spiritual truth, spoken right into the face of a crisis. Do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with us.
Wow, the lesson here is just so powerful. This is the teaching of tawakkul, that complete and total trust in God. It tells us that real peace, real security, it doesn't come from being safe from danger. It comes from being certain of God's presence no matter what's happening around you. Okay, so we're going to shift from that moment of high drama to a much quieter, more personal story. This next lesson is all about the deep connection between having faith and having humility.
So after Mecca was entered peacefully, Abu Bakr brings his elderly father to meet the Prophet. A totally normal sign of respect. But the Prophet gently points to a higher standard. He says that instead of this old man coming to him, he, the leader of the community, should have gone to the man's home to visit him.
This whole interaction is really grounded in a core teaching, a famous saying from the Prophet that pretty much defines the character of the community. It sets up this social code based on taking care of each other, showing dignity to the elderly and tenderness to the young.
You see, the point here is that spirituality isn't just about your own private prayers. It has to show up in how you treat other people. This is the idea of adab, having beautiful conduct. Faith without kindness, without respect, without social grace. It's just not the whole picture.
Our final lesson tackles a question that feels so incredibly modern.
How are we supposed to deal with family members who don't share our beliefs? The answer provided here is one of deep justice, and it's just as relevant today as it was back then.
It's a real dilemma, one that a lot of people face. And it turns out Abu Bakr's own daughter, Asma, ran right into this problem. What are you supposed to do when a loved one, who's on a different path, reaches out?
So Asma's mother, who was not a Muslim, came to visit and brought her gifts. And Asma hesitated. She wasn't sure what the right thing to do was in this kind of delicate family situation. So she went to the Prophet for guidance. Was she even allowed to keep this family tie alive?
And the answer came straight from divine revelation. This verse from the Quran laid down a crystal-clear principle. As long as people are peaceful towards you, a difference in faith doesn't cancel out your moral duty to be just, to be kind, and to be righteous towards them.
So, when you pull back and look at these 4 different stories, what is the legacy that was actually being built? It wasn't an empire of land, was it? It was more like an architecture of the soul.
Let's just sum it up. Righteousness teaches you that your real worth is your piety. Trust teaches you that your real strength is your faith. Respect teaches you that true nobility is found in humility. And kindness teaches you that your sense of justice has to include compassion for everyone. It's a timeless code for character.
And this brings us right back to our big question from the start. These lessons, taught by the Prophet and lived by his companion, all suggest that our real legacy, it's not what we own. It's the character we build inside ourselves and the character we inspire in others. So the final question is one we all have to answer for ourselves. What really defines a person's true worth?